You are tuned in to Get Connected. Mike Agerbo here with my tech nerd friends, AJ Vickery and John Biehler. We got an awesome show today, guys. Later on, we'll be talking with Sasha Luccioni. She is Director of Scientific Projects, AI for Humanity at Mila. We'll be talking to her about AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and how scientists are using that to combat the coronavirus, and everything from trying to create a new vaccine to things like contact tracing as well. It is actually a fascinating interview, so I encourage you to stay tuned for that. We'll also be talking with Cheryl Abbot. She will be chatting to us about a new life insurance program from Manulife. And I know, okay, that doesn't sound exciting, but what is exciting is how they've gamified your life insurance. You can actually get a free Apple Watch, and by actually doing activity, you can lower your monthly insurance premiums. How's that sound, AJ?
I'm going to attach it to my dog, and I'm going to be so cheap in my life insurance.
AJ, I've seen your dogs.
I'm going to buy a healthy dog.
Yeah, your current dogs, you'll get points taken away. Your insurance premiums will triple.
I remember when the smart cars used to have those built-in gamified things to help reduce the driving, right? So they took it out, but if you rented like a car to go, for example, you would get points, and the green park would grow trees, and birds would come and nest in them, and things would and that was based on you not using too much brakes and not accelerating too much. But I think the problem is that I gamed the system, and I figured out by not using any brakes and sliding through corners. My things were growing and birds were coming, but I was driving recklessly and horribly. So.
All the animals by the side of the road were dead, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's look at some of the tech news here on Get Connected that we're following. And this is an interesting one. MIT develops a way to use wireless signals from in-home appliances to better understand your health. Okay, so let's break this down. They've developed a new system. I believe it's called Sapple. I don't know why it's called Sapple, but let's just keep running with that. It uses two sensors placed in a person's home, and it can actually detect the pattern of devices that someone in the home is using from their, frequencies, radio frequencies. This includes things like stoves, hair dryers, and more. And the idea behind this is that caregivers, for example, would know that, their patients, they don't have to be there, they're actually taking care of themselves by cooking things and looking after their personal hygiene. Any issues here, guys?
Where do you start?
Well, one of the things that's interesting about this, though, because there is technology to do this kind of stuff now, but you have to attach something to every device.
Yeah.
And it's then measuring the electrical usage, for example, is one way of doing it. And that can be expensive, and that can also be kind of a pain as well, because some of these devices are small. This sounds very simplified, and basically it just puts a couple of things in your house that aren't attached to anything specific. So that sounds cool. But there is a few, like we suggested, there might be a couple other issues with this too, is it doesn't necessarily know why you're using something, are you using the hairdryer to do something other than dry hair? Mm-hmm. Torment your cat? I don't know.
Into the bathtub with you because life's just too difficult.
Well, I got to be honest. I'm afraid that, Mike, you're going to put this in my place, and during this work from home thing, see that my shower is not running nearly enough as it should be.
Well, we know that already. Your wife's been tweeting this out daily now. Day 28. He still hasn't had a shower.
Or washed his underwear.
So, they've actually, it's two sensors. And so when I thought sensors, we've seen a lot of devices that have sensors. Like my thermostat has extra little sensors I can put around the home. But, they're like the size of a loonie or a toonie. These sensors are gigantic. They're a couple feet by a foot and a half in size. So they're like these giant plates that you got to put on your wall. But, on one side, it could be good for caregivers. And, obviously with the aging population, this might be a good way to kind of keep track of elderly folks or elderly parents without, a full invasion of their privacy.
Well, and that could be interesting too, because if that information could be exposed to, say, a family member that's concerned about that particular person, that could be good as well, just so they know what's going on. There's been a lot of discussion lately about putting cameras into care homes and stuff like that, so that family members can sort of keep tabs on their loved ones, and the concern about that and overhearing other residents and that type of stuff. Whereas this is much more passive, and it's much more just to let us know that the lights are on and someone's using the hairdryer or whatever.
What this reminded me is another study of some Wi-Fi technology, and I think both of you guys have also heard of examples of this, but I knew that in New Jersey and Rutgers, there was a university specializing in Wi-Fi research, and they were able to use Wi-Fi and some of the information contained within the bands to detect movement within the house. So you could take already installed routers or Wi-Fi that's in your home or on your phone, and actually pick up movement in the house as well. So you'd be able to see if people were upstairs or downstairs or out of the house and all these kinds of things. Pick up things like heart rate and all that kind of stuff, all contained in information that could be pulled out of the bands and Wi-Fi. So this kind of reminded me of that in a way, or at least something like that being used with this to even get more enhanced.
Yeah, no, I read about that study too, AJ, and I think we've talked a little bit about it on the program before, but that is an interesting one, and there's all sorts of privacy implications there. Who has access to that, for example? Would your ISP, if they provide you a modem and Wi-Fi router, would they have access to that information? Not only did it measure the heart rate, but it was also able to actually measure your emotions, because it could detect your heart rate and actually your breathing. You could see if you were excited or happy or depressed, essentially. So cool in one way that they can figure that technology out, but from a privacy side, doesn't that kind of freak you out?
Yeah, that's a nightmare to deal with. I think the technology is cool, like you say, because it can tell us so much in something that's already in every single house. But you're right. Once you start collecting that data and parsing it and using AI to determine what people are doing and how they're feeling, scary.
Okay. We've got a lot going on here on the program today. Later on, we'll be talking about how artificial intelligence and machine learning is helping combat the coronavirus. So some fascinating stuff on how they're able to use that to not only sequence the genome of it, but also accelerate the vaccination process or the research into that. Let's also talk about our contest. We're giving away this week a Belkin wireless charging stand, special edition in white. This is for all the new phones out there that have wireless charging capabilities. You just basically put it on the dock and it'll charge for you without any wires. It's pretty cool. Again, the Belkin wireless charging stand, special edition in white. To enter to win, hit our website, getconnectedmedia.com. Hit the newsletter tab and subscribe, and you're entered to win this contest and all the contests going forward. When we come back from the break, we'll learn how life insurance premiums can be reduced by wearing an Apple Watch. Back after this. You are back with Get Connected. Mike Agerbo here with John Biehler. Still lots to talk about in today's program. I'm excited about one of the segments coming up. We will be chatting all about artificial intelligence and how it's being used to fight the COVID-19 virus. Right now, though, I want to talk about something interesting I came across. I was in the process of renewing some of my life insurance, and it's really interesting, some of the programs that are available out there right now. Ones that let you even use an Apple Watch to help bring down your premium. On the line, we've got Cheryl Abbot. She's with Bloom Financial, and we want to talk today about a new program from Manulife called Vitality. Thanks for joining us, Cheryl.
Thank you for having me.
So we actually had a long discussion about this, and I found it quite fascinating. So this program, it's basically life insurance, but it's kind of gamification. It makes you want to be healthy and actually can help you track your overall activity on a daily and weekly basis to help bring down your insurance premiums.
Well, exactly. The life insurance program is linked to your Apple Watch. so that you can use the Apple Watch features to motivate you to get active. And those will help bring your premiums down.
What I found interesting, John, this was kind of neat. You love playing games as well. You get points for all sorts of different things. Like, if you get a flu shot annually, you get a number of points. Depending on how much activity, you get points during a daily basis. And you can actually level up to different levels throughout the year. I think it starts at bronze, goes up to silver, gold, and then platinum. What kind of rewards are we looking at, Cheryl?
Well, the main rewards of the Vitality program is the Apple Watch, Amazon gift cards, and hotels.com. And you earn these rewards basically through healthy living and activity. The main motivation really linked to the Apple Watch is the activity.
And from what I understand, there's also a discount to purchase an Apple Watch out of the gate.
When you purchase your life insurance, you're invited to join the Vitality program. And as soon as you join, you have an opportunity to buy a discounted Apple Watch. So the Apple Watch 3 and 5 are both available through the program right now. The Apple Watch 3 is free, and you do pay the taxes on the watch. And the Apple Watch 5, I think, is $79, and you pay the taxes on that as well. Once you have the Apple Watch, you link it to your Vitality app, and it starts to track your activity points.
John, is that something you'd be interested in?
That seems like a significant deal. If you can get a Series 5 watch for $80 plus tax.
Yeah, they're usually like $500 or $600, aren't they?
Yeah, because I bought one not too long ago, and it was about $600 all in.
Yes, it's a significant discount. The thing is that you're paying a monthly fee for the watch, but that fee is waived if you reach your activity goals that month.
But it's not that bad from the activity goals I saw. It's as little as I think around 4,000 or 5,000 steps a day, which I think most people, if they're doing even some moderate activity, they can easily achieve. There's a whole, I guess, privacy thing here as well, Cheryl. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, this Apple Watch has to be linked to, the insurance company. What else are they using that information for?
Well, I think it's key to know that your Apple Watch is linked to the Vitality app. And so all of the information does go to Vitality, but it doesn't go to the insurance company. The insurance company gets your points so that they can use your points levels to select your level in the program, bronze, silver, gold, or platinum. And whichever level you're at, that's the discount that applies to your insurance and the rewards that you achieve.
So they're not tracking how many times like John and I would be down at the pub on a daily basis?
No, they don't have access to your GPS.
How has this been received? Like when I heard about this, I found it fascinating. I was all in on it, but does this appeal to all ages?
I think that the key is that people come to me looking for life insurance. They're wanting their life insurance. And when I tell them about the program, you either are very excited about it, you want to get engaged, you want to be motivated to get healthier, because let's face it, your life insurance premiums are linked to your health. And so if you're healthier and your prices come down, that's great. I'm finding it's more in the 40 plus range that people are excited about it. They're recognizing the risks as we age and wanting to be motivated, wanting one more piece to get motivated to get active.
I think one of the things that is attractive about this particular program, though, is the watch, in the sense that aside from lowering your premiums by doing activities, there's a lot of other healthy benefits that Mike and I have talked about a lot on the show, about doing things like monitoring your heart rate and other things like that, and giving you notifications if there's anything irregular health-wise. So just from the medical standpoint of the benefits of the watch itself, let alone reducing your life insurance premiums, which are always a good thing, it seems pretty compelling to me.
I think that the Apple Watch is really the key to the program. You actually can instead purchase a Garmin device. Actually, you don't purchase it, it's free with the program. So when you sign up, you are invited to order a Garmin device. But what I've found is that the Apple Watch has so many more features and links so much more seamlessly to give you your points that clients who opt for the Garmin don't seem to engage in the program in the same way and achieve the points levels as the people who select the Apple Watch.
I guess all the Android people out there, John, are are probably going to have to go with the Garmin watch, eh?
Perhaps, yeah. Or they're feverishly writing us hate mail right now.
The Garmin watch does work, but the Garmin doesn't seamlessly link in the same way.
Yeah.
I've seen more success with people who select the Apple.
Well, and that was kind of my angle before. When I bought my Apple Watch, I upgraded from a Series 3 to a 5 because of the health benefits. And, I'm getting a little bit older, as is Mike. And so having these features on my wrist to, alert me or keep track of things that I should be concerned about, even when I'm not aware of them being a problem, is a huge benefit for the Apple Watch. And I haven't really found any other smartwatch that can sort of touch that, and regardless of platform. So it makes sense that you offer this, and then you also give people the choice of the Garmin as well, which definitely some people love as they should.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I love the whole gamification of it, and getting points for actually doing more activity, and reducing some of the insurance costs there. Cheryl, I want to thank you for joining us on the program today. And where can people find out more information about what you do?
If you go to the Manulife website and search Vitality, you can actually find an advisor in your area, and it will give you all their contact information.
That was Cheryl Abbot. She's with Bloom Financial here in the Vancouver Lower Mainland. When we come back, we're going to be talking about how computing and artificial intelligence is being used to combat the COVID-19 virus. Back after this. You are back with Mike Agerbo and John Biehler. Let's talk artificial intelligence and how it can be used to hopefully battle the COVID-19 virus. On the line, we've got our good friend Sasha Luccioni. She is the Director of Scientific Projects, Artificial Intelligence for Humanity at Mila. Thanks for joining us, Sasha.
I'm glad to be here.
So artificial intelligence is used for a number of different things, but you guys are researching on how you can battle the COVID-19 virus. What are you guys up to?
So when this all started, we reached out to some colleagues of ours who work with the WHO and the UN, and what started out as a conversation ended up as an article. So we wrote an article about how AI can help fighting the COVID pandemic, and we identified a bunch of different ways. Essentially, scientists, we want to know all the different options before we settle on one. So we figured out that, we can work on vaccine creation, we can work on improving CT scan identification, on epidemiology, on all different scales. And so essentially we published this paper, and people at Mila, so there's a bunch of researchers working on different parts that we identified. So there's a group of researchers working on, for example, using AI in order to explore all the billions of possible molecules that can eventually be treatments for COVID. So essentially they do this by simulating the molecular structure of the COVID protein and the molecular structures of the other molecules that they're looking at, and seeing how they bind together. And based on this, it's basically a simulation in AI space. And based on this, you can predict what their affinity is, and the better they bind, the more chances there are of using them as a treatment, essentially. So there's a group working on that. It's really interesting because you can essentially search, hundreds of millions of molecules in a relatively short amount of time, which can take a lot longer if you're synthesizing them and trying them in vitro. So AI can help kind of create this simulated world for vaccines and for cures, which is, they're making some really great progress. It's pretty exciting. And then there's also some researchers working on, for example, how to optimize ventilator attribution in hospitals based on projections. So essentially using different levels of data, so national data, regional data, municipal data, in order to predict, for example, tomorrow how many patients there are, and so to allocate resources within a hospital and within a public hospital system in the way that for example, sometimes they can even send ventilators from one region to another, from one county to another, knowing that there's going to be more patients in that county. So that's a really interesting project because they're using real data and kind of making predictions in real time. So that's really exciting. And then we have also a researcher working on improving diagnosis of COVID using CT imagery. So he made actually this website where you can download his model and test it on CT scans, so they can use this in hospitals. And it could actually be a good way of testing for COVID while waiting, for example, for a positive diagnosis. So for example, someone arrives in a hospital and they have symptoms, and then they send out their test, but during the 24 hours that it can take sometimes to get a positive diagnosis for COVID, you can use CT scans to kind of get an idea of whether, like, what the probability of that person having COVID or not is, and then something that can be coupled with the eventual tests. So it's another thing that's been being worked on.
Well, talking about, I think a lot of people are concerned about a vaccine right now. You talked about how artificial intelligence is being used to see virtually how, you said like 1 billion different molecules would bind with the COVID-19 virus. Has this been done before with artificial intelligence? Like how effective has it been if it has?
So it hasn't been done for a vaccine. It has been done for antibiotics. So essentially, I don't know if you know, but we're having more and more drug-resistant bacteria, and so there have been cases. Essentially, the issue is that there's such a large space that can be explored, even for antibiotics. There's different types of antibiotics, and some of them are more large scale or narrow. And so essentially, using AI, you can explore spaces that haven't been explored before, and then essentially create molecules that we haven't, either that don't exist or we haven't discovered yet. So for the antibiotics, it has been used, and there was a publication, I think it was just last year, as a proof of concept, but it's never been used for vaccines yet. So this is like a completely brave new world.
No, it's fascinating. For the antibiotics, like how much did that speed up the process? Do you have an idea of that?
Well, so essentially the bottleneck is testing. So once you identify some molecules, after that you can synthesize them and you can test them in vitro using samples of the virus, essentially. And then you can already get an idea if it's working as well in your Petri dish as it worked in your simulation. So that's like a first step. And then say from like 100 promising molecules, you'll narrow it down to 20. But then those 20 still have to be tested in mice and humans and et cetera, et cetera. And so the bottleneck is always going to be human testing, which is good because you want it to be safe, and there are things that should be explored, right? So I think with AI, it can give you kind of an idea of things to test, but for example, it can't predict how humans will react to the vaccine because it doesn't have that data. All it has is the data of binding, right? There's no anatomical data as such, physiological data, so they don't know. Maybe the molecule that it proposed is actually poisonous to humans. That's something that has to be tested down the line,
Yeah. But it's
sorry, Mike. I was going to say, it basically helps you speed up the process of elimination, at least to narrow your focus and figure out where to spend the actual lab time instead of trying to go through every single thing, like the billions of molecules, like you mentioned, right? So
exactly. And then typically, for example, for antibiotics research, it's been kind of a hit or miss, or that this family of molecules, there's a lot of antibiotics in that general direction, so you'll go there. Well, what if there's this whole other family of molecules that you haven't even looked at yet because it just hasn't come up yet, right? So actually, like antibiotics have been discovered by accident in a lot of cases, right? And vaccines, it's taken years and years of work to discover this, and you still base yourself off of other things, like things that have been working for different types of flu, right? Like you can base yourself off of something, but you'll always, be biased in that direction. And AI kind of helps you open the perspectives a bit larger and say, well, this molecule, maybe it's used in something completely like different. Maybe it's like, something that's organic. Maybe it's a compound that's found in onions or some random thing. And then maybe it will help, right? So it's like, it's a way of broadening your horizon.
My question is, this is all fascinating, and I can see how this would speed up, the research. But you talked about the testing, not having the human physiological data. Will we get to a point in the future where we'll have that digitized so that we could test these things virtually on virtual humans? You know what I mean?
I think that I know that personalized medicine is becoming more and more of a thing, but I think that even if you sequence someone's genome and you really know exactly, what we're made out of on a cellular level, there's also other levels that are harder to predict. For example, an organ level or an environmental level or et cetera, like things that we're being exposed to and side effects of our condition changing. For example, what happens like if you sequence someone's genome, but then they become diabetic or they have high cholesterol, that's something that I don't think we're at the point of detecting that on a molecular level yet. So I think that there's work to be done in terms of understanding how we work better, because AI is all about data, and the better the data is, the better your assimilation is going to be. So I don't think that we're there in terms of creating, a virtual human, like how the brain works. If we want to cure Alzheimer's with a drug, right? We don't know how the brain works well enough in order to input that into an AI algorithm and tell it, optimize whatever this is. We don't have an idea, a clear enough idea.
How far away do you think we are from that? Is that like years, hundreds of years?
No, I think it's probably in the next 20 years, we'll have some breakthrough. I think that the brain is kind of the last frontier because it's so complex, but for things that are a bit more simple, I don't know, like blood pressure or something, things that are a bit more straightforward, we can make progress faster. But a lot of people are actually working on the connection between neuroscience and AI, because they realize that it's kind of an anecdote, but neural networks, right? Neural networks are a tool of AI, a type of algorithm that is inspired by the brain. But we're so far gone now in terms of neural network architectures that no one talks about it being brain inspired anymore. It's kind of like, yeah, well, back in the day, someone came up with it and it was inspired by the brain. But there's this whole kind of 180 that's happening. And then now that we're talking about bio-inspired AI and vice versa, like neuroscience using some discoveries from AI. So there's like a lot of connections being made now. And I think that the more that these kinds of connections are made between neuroscientists and AI practitioners or clinicians and AI practitioners, the more we have a potential of finding something that works in both cases.
We're talking with our good friend, Sasha Luccioni. She is an expert researcher into artificial intelligence at Mila. We're going to have to take a break. When we come back, we'll chat with her a little bit more about some of the computing power that is necessary to make this happen. Back after this. Do you mind if we just keep you on for another few minutes here?
Yeah, fine. Am I clear enough? You can tell me if I use long words or something.
No, surprisingly, you're actually really good. I'm understanding everything, which is fantastic.
Okay.
A lot of times when we have nerdy people on, they kind of get into the weeds, so to speak. I tried it when I feel myself going too far off. I try to. No, you're fantastic. You're fantastic. Okay, let's. John, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Here we go. You are back with Mike Agerbo and John Biehler here on Get Connected. So we're talking all about artificial intelligence and how some researchers are using it to attack the COVID-19 virus, everything from developing vaccines to diagnosis of folks that have it. On the line, we've got Sasha Luccioni. She's the Director of Scientific Projects, Artificial Intelligence for Humanity at Mila. Sasha, what kind of computing power do you need to make this happen? We talked about, scientists using artificial intelligence to basically research how well like 1 billion different types of molecules would actually bind with the COVID-19 virus. Is this something I can go down to Best Buy and buy an HP laptop and start doing this? Or are we talking, big computing power?
The approach that's being used in the Molecule Discovery Project is called reinforcement learning. And the way that works is that essentially you have, it's the same approach that was used for AlphaGo, all those kind of game-based and Atari and things like that. So essentially you have something that you want to complete a task, for example, discovering a molecule that has 100% binding power with COVID. And essentially you're trying to optimize the way that you do this task, and you do it hundreds of thousands of times. So essentially it doesn't require that much computing power as such, because the approach used, the neural network is not that complex, isn't that deep, but you have to do it a lot of times. So essentially you can do it on an HP laptop. It'll just take you a while because you have to, you can run it one by one task by one task, but you can also parallelize it. And then essentially in order to make several threads, several parallel experiments, for that you need GPUs. So that is beginning to be a kind of a mainstream thing. And the more efficient your GPU, the more powerful your GPU, the more parallel tasks you can have going. So at Mila, we do have like clusters of GPUs, but it's not actually, that's the thing. It's not a question of, having this really, really powerful computer. It's essentially a question of finding the perfect way to tune your task so that it gets completed successfully. So then you have to play around with parameters and things like that. So that's where it gets messy. But in terms of computing power, it's really not that bad.
So you talked about GPUs, and just for the listeners, that's a graphical processor, right? Like
yes.
in a video card, for example.
Exactly, yes. So it exists nowadays, and most computers, a lot of computers have them, especially gaming computers. Now what's used a lot for machine learning are TPUs, which are tensor processing units, which are like the next step from GPUs that can have like a lot of more parallel computations per second. Essentially, why a GPU is better than a CPU or more efficient in any case for machine learning is that you can have more things going on at once. You can have more parallel computations at once. That doesn't mean it can store more memory, have more storage. It just means that it can do parallel things. It can multitask better.
How's that compared to like our brains? Can we parallel task? I know as a man, I have a hard time doing more than one thing at a time.
I wasn't going to go there. No, but it's interesting. So Joshua Benchio, who's our scientific director of Mila, he's working a lot on neuro-inspired AI. And so essentially, as humans, we tend to have two ways of processing things. We have the fast route and the slow route. And so, for example, if you're doing something like you're doing your dishes, it's going to tend to take the fast route because you've already done this before, I assume. So you have things that you do on more or less autopilot, like driving, like walking, right? You don't really think about putting one foot in front of the other. And then you have the slow kind of processing thing. That's when you have to learn a new task or learn about GPUs. Then your brain can kind of slow down a bit and you have to go slower. And so right now, the way that AI works, it's mostly kind of this automatic fast processing, like you don't really think about what we're doing and you just put data in and you just get stuff out. Essentially, the AI that exists now is more of this fast processing speed, like you have a robot washing dishes. But we haven't figured out how to do the slow kind of rational, logical thing. We can't ask a neural network to explain why a decision was made, why a certain molecule binds with another. That's still kind of up in the air. And so he's concentrating a lot on this kind of explainable AI, on the slow AI part, but this is a whole new domain of AI.
So slow AI. You think you'd want fast AI, but slow AI is where it's at in the future.
Well, we have computers that can do like really fast facial recognition, but then again, when we ask it, why, like for example, if something goes wrong, right? If someone gets misidentified using a facial recognition algorithm, the machine will be able to tell you why this person looks like someone on FBI's most wanted list. They're not going to be able to say, well, they have a similar nose or this guy has a baseball hat or whatever. And so this is where a lot of people are working right now. Explainable AI, transparent AI, ethical AI. That's like a really important part of AI right now because we realize that fast is good in some cases, but even if your autonomous car can drive, you still want to understand how it's making its choices.
Why did you knock John off the side of the road on his bicycle?
Right. And then what if there's bias, right? What if all of a sudden you realize that it's discriminating against a certain, race or gender or something? Like all of these things are really unclear in AI algorithms right now.
We're talking with our good friend, Sasha Luccioni. She is the Director of Scientific Projects for Artificial Intelligence for Humanity at Mila. Thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
When we come back from the break, more tech to talk here on Get Connected. Back after this. You are back with Get Connected. It's been an awesome show. Don't forget to hit our contest page. We're giving away an awesome Belkin wireless charging stand. This thing is all kinds of awesome. If you've got any of the latest smartphones from Apple or an Android phone, it probably has wireless charging capability. And this is fantastic. You basically plug it into the outlet, and then from that point forward, you can just basically put your phone on the stand without having to plug in any additional wires. If you want to enter to win this, all you have to do is go to our website, getconnectedmedia.com. We've got all sorts of great blogs, how-to tips, the latest product reviews up there, and also all of our video podcasts from Get Connected and also our sister show, The App Show, that happens here every Sunday. Again, hit the newsletter tab on getconnectedmedia.com, enter to win, and we'll be drawing the prize shortly. I want to thank everyone that helps put the show together, including John and AJ and the rest of the team. We'll see you again next time.